That breath take us into our heart of hearts, into our heart of gratitude for the many ways that life sustains us, supports us, renews us. Give thanks for all the blessings that we see and all the blessings that are still to be revealed. We take another deep breath and we let ourselves feel the peace that goes beyond all intellectual understanding. The peace that bypasses the human mind. The peace that we can feel no matter what's going on around us, no matter what's going on in the world. We deepen into the peace that bypasses the thinking mind, the place that many of us call home, the kingdom of heaven place, the field of divine possibilities place. We deepen our consciousness into a place where we're not looking for what's right or wrong or good or bad. It's a place where we have no judgment about ourselves or one another or events of the world. I invite us right now to bless ourselves and all the titles that we have. All the naming of ourselves that we hold. We are sisters and brothers, mothers and fathers, aunties and uncles. We are cousins and siblings. We are sons and daughters, colleagues and neighbors. And keep deepening beyond all those titles, all those job roles, all those positions and places in our families, all those ways that we name ourselves. I invite you to feel the presence known by many names. That presence that goes beyond all naming. The presence that goes beyond all defining of who we are. The presence that holds us. The presence that is blueprinted into every cell and atom of our being. The presence that is within the spaciousness of the atoms of our being. That presence that is the spaciousness of all the universes, all the galaxies, all of the planets and stars. The presence that holds it all. I invite us just to pause for a few moments. And feel the being, the presence, the life energy that moves through us and around us and holds us. Like the water of the ocean holds sea life. presence that holds us beyond all of our beliefs, all of our religions, the presence that holds us beyond all political ideas, the presence that waits for us. Into this presence. In our consciousness, we hold those close in our prayers, in our consciousness of peace and love, and speaking names right now out loud, if you so choose, individuals, groups, that we are seeing as the light of the world, that we are holding in the healing consciousness. Charlene and her family, all world leaders, school teachers, children starting a new term. All that we hold in our hearts, we see all that we hold themselves being held by this one presence. This beautiful presence that goes beyond all human understanding. We give thanks for healing, renewal, regeneration, restoration, for body, mind, emotion, spirit. We give thanks for healing in all of its many forms, and we say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. Everybody say, let there be light. Oh, light. Okay. And so look how powerful we are. We are the light. We are the light. We've got it. We don't have to come here every Sunday. We've got it. Okay. Turn to somebody and say, please turn up all the lights. We got a little bit more coming, I think, because we want the light. There we go. So, and you know, in the new sanctuary, there's going to be windows. And light. And as much as we love this beautiful mural that Ruth Cox painted and Joanna Adams painted years ago, because we wanted a window, and see, I can sit in my office and I can look right into that window. The new sanctuary has light, windows, and that's the same enthusiasm that we can feel for the window. The light is coming in. Even when we try to talk ourselves out of it because of somebody who said something or didn't say something or did something or didn't do something, and then we get an attitude. I know y'all never do that, but they said that human beings have attitudes, and then that attitude, you know what it does? It pulls the shades. Light can't get in. So this morning we're opening the windows, we're pulling up the shades, we're pulling back the curtains, because we remember that we're the light of the world. So what we're going to talk about this morning is you are not your mind. That's good, somebody said. Let's all take a deep breath. In this room, there are many kinds of certifications, trainings, degrees, many kinds of letters after the name of different things we've studied, different fields of study that we've done, different life experiences that we've had. We've been trained to be the light the way that the light wants to shine through us. And it's a wonderful thing. And it's also a very humbling thing when we realize after we do all those studies and certification programs and degree programs that we're not our mind. So then what's the point? We learn all of these wonderful things, all this wonderful information, and then we discover that we are the answer we've been looking for, and it's all within us. And whether we ever get a certification program in anything or not, we have everything within us that we need to know to be the light of the world. We're an adorable species. This is often the last place we look to discover the light of the world. I'm sure it's in that book, The Light of the World Information. Now, this is the book. So we're starting The Power of Now this week in our book group. It's an ongoing book group. Buddy, I was trying to remember 8 years, 9 years, 10 years.
It's at least 10.
At least 10. So we are a book group with history. And we are Book Group Plus because it is a support energy.
Consciousness-raising group from the 70s.
A consciousness-raising group from the 70s.
And a book on top.
So the subtitle of this book is A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. So let's define spiritual enlightenment. The Buddha, who I think is a pretty good source, he says enlightenment is the end of suffering. And we have a sign-up list for people who want that. The end of suffering. Eckhart Tolle says it's simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. Another word for God, another word for divine mind, another word for Holy Spirit. We can feel our oneness with. Like Jesus said, I and the Father are one. We feel our oneness with the all that is, that's known by many names. Anybody else have another definition? Enlightenment? What?
Freedom. Chill.
Freedom? I can't hear you.
Chill.
Chill. You mean we're mellow? Oh, we're not worried about anything. Okay. So, spiritual enlightenment. Here's what Tolle says, Eckhart Tolle. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible. Something that, almost paradoxically, is essentially you, and yet is much greater than you. It is finding your true nature beyond name and form. Well, who am I if I'm not me? Beyond what?
I'm God.
Oh, so beyond my name, beyond this physicality, beyond any life experience, beyond any kind of training or books I've read, beyond anything that has happened or not happened in my life, anything that defines me, it's beyond that. It's beyond form, and it's beyond my name. So, a few years ago, I had a really wonderful night's sleep. And I woke up that morning unconnected with my name and my form. And if you've ever had that experience, you know what I'm talking about. I told this story several years back here, and a few beautiful, wonderful, loving nurses came up to me later and said, are you sure you didn't have a stroke? And that's a good question. And the answer is no, but here's the experience. As I opened my eyes, I had no connection with the form of the room. I had no connection with name, state, city, address. I was consciousness. I had no connection with being Margaret, sister of Pam, wife of David. And I was not concerned about it. I did not feel fear or confusion or dismay. I was simply consciousness. And I can't tell you how long it lasted because, as you can guess, there was no time involved. And so I was curious. I felt my consciousness in a state of curiosity. And then gradually the different pieces began to reveal themselves to me. And okay, this is where you are in the universe. This is where you are on the planet. This is where you are in the country. This is where you are in the state. This is where you are in the relationships. It's a beautiful experience, and there was never any fear with it. And it's a similar experience that we can have when we go into deep meditation. That we go beyond, above, below, and all around this defining that we do. We connect with or feel that which holds the all of it. We can call it the ground of all being. We can call it God. We can call it divine mind. We can call it the field of loving energy. We can call it what? Creation. You see, we're not our mind, and we're not our body, and we're not our naming, we're not our form. We precede, and we even go beyond the body. Charlene's sister, Sharia, passed this last week. They did the memorial yesterday. We miss the physicality when our beloveds go. Their physicality. We have learned, we've experienced. And if you haven't experienced, then my prayer is that you will. Because it is a blessed moment when we realize the truth that life and consciousness continue. It's a good thing to start connecting with that before you actually leave the body. This presence that we're talking about is our very essence. It's the core of who we are. It's the truth of who we are. It's immediately accessible to us as the feeling of our own presence. The realization of the I am that is prior to the little I am. I'm a sister, I'm a stepmother, I'm a wife, I'm a minister, I'm a teacher, I'm a healer, I'm a friend, I'm a cousin, all of that. There's something of me that goes beyond all of that. Something of you that goes beyond all of that. And that's the place we want to connect with, because that is the kingdom of heaven place. I am that I am. And a lot of us won't connect there deeply until we're pushed and nudged and pulled into it. It often requires a life-shifting event. The death of someone very important to us. The loss of something very important. It might be a person, it might be health, it might be a relationship, it might be loss of status, financial security. Sometimes it requires a major loss for us to go, well, wait a minute. That's not really who I am. Who I am goes beyond all of that. This present moment chaos or difficulty, this present moment upsetting event, that's not the isness of me. That's not the I amness of me. And yet, we're so adorable. We will define ourselves by the events of our lives. We'll define ourselves by our wins or our losses. We'll define ourselves by the doors that open or the doors that shut. We'll define ourselves by what somebody said or didn't say. You see, you know how we do that. So it's a really good idea to practice going beyond all of that to connect with the trueness of who we are. And that's the assignment. It always was the assignment. But we like to be entertained, and so we make up lots of drama stories to stay involved with, rather than being involved with the one presence. You see how we do that? Because we love to be entertained, and we love a good story. Right? So, what is the greatest obstacle to experiencing this reality? It's the identification with our minds, which causes thought to become compulsive. It's an affliction if we can't stop thinking. It creates a false mind-made self. Has anybody ever said this to you? Who do you think you are?
Many a time.
And it's really fun to get to the deepest answer to that question. Remember way back when we used to go to cocktail parties? And what was the first question you'd be asked?
What do you do?
What do you do for a living?
Before that, it was, what does your husband do?
What does your husband do? Or what sign are you? Wouldn't it be fun to answer from a really deep conscious place? You know, what do you do for a living? Oh, let me tell you. I'm the light of the world. I'm transforming negative, hurtful energy to the energy of peace and healing. That's what I do for a living. Wouldn't that be fun? Well, let's do that then. So, remember in high school when you learned Descartes? Is that how you say it, Descartes? I think, therefore I am. Guess what? It's not true.
I think not, he disappeared.
It's the basic error that we make to equate our thinking with being and to identify ourselves with thinking. You know, Eckhart Tolle's story is quite remarkable. He's an educated man, but lived until his 30s with great anxiety. So much so that he had a major, what we call a breakdown, or maybe a breaking open, because he broke open. And he experienced the one presence, the all that is, and he sat on a park bench for a few years in complete bliss. He lost everything, his job, his home, his status, his finances, and the rest is history. Because he started writing books and teaching little groups of people. So here's the deal. There's a much bigger presence and much more going on in the world than we know, and we're not who we think we are. That's right. So, thinking has become a disease. I am sorry. But it has become a disease. We think ourselves to death. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. And it's a curse when we use it in toxic ways. I mean, have you ever done this? You have a thought about yourself, you know, that's being less than the light of the world. And you can have a whole conversation, right? In your own head. You don't need anybody else. In your own head, there are different aspects of you that will agree with you. Oh yeah, you're way less than the light of the world. And you'll have a whole conversation about it. Don't do that. Because that's not the realness of who you are. That's not the truth of who you are. Eckhart Tolle had this thought, I can no longer live with myself. And then he thought, well, how many of me are there? One of those must not be real. If I can't live with myself, who is it? They can't do that. And so he started investigating the realness and trueness of his beingness. And that's really what we're talking about. So, I have a clicker. Christy, give me some help there. There you are. So thinking, this is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over. So our mind is a wonderful instrument. It's a part of the created being that we are. However, have you noticed that our minds change? One of the best things that Fillmore ever said, it's part of what got me into Unity, I reserve the right to change my mind as new scientific discoveries happen and as new insights come. I reserve the right to change my mind. Why? Because it's changeable. But what we're talking about is getting this sense of oneness with the unchangeable. Has anybody ever said to you, have you lost your mind? And you say, yes, thank God. We want to use our minds as beautiful instruments to express ourselves as the light of the world. But many times, because we are an adorable species, we use our minds to create toxicity for ourselves and others. And there's the disease. Christy, give me some help here. There. The moment you start watching the thinker, meaning you watch yourself and you watch the thoughts you're having. It's basic Vipassana meditation. Just breathe through the thought. There it is. Oh, that's an interesting thought. There's that wacky thought again. Breathe. There it goes. Here comes another wacky thought. Breathe. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. And we begin to realize that things that truly matter, we can name many things, but just for now, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, those things do not arise from our thinking. Those things arrive from that kingdom of heaven place within us. Have you ever been in a really difficult situation and you realize you were feeling peace and joy and you surprise yourself? You go, whoa. I mean, literally a few days ago, I started searching for that feeling of being in anxiety about something. I started searching. Where'd it go? I was used to having that little bit of anxiety about something, and suddenly I couldn't find it. So my mind was searching for it. I'm sure it's here somewhere. We're going over, but the story of the woman touching the hem of the garment of Jesus. That's a part of what I'm talking about. Everybody know that story? You know, she had a disease, and she had in her mind that if I can just touch the hem of the garment of this man who they say walks in the atmosphere of healing and transformative consciousness, if I can just touch into that a little bit, I don't want a sleeve, I don't want the whole garment, I just want to touch the hem of it. And she knew that would make her whole, and as the story goes, it did. If we can just have that much curiosity. Now, I'm not asking to be ushered into the great throne room all at once, but I just crack the door open a little bit so I can begin to feel the enormous love and peace and wisdom. Let me get used to a little bit. You know, we don't turn the lights on full throttle after meditation. There's a reason for that. You know, just show me a little bit of light at a time, so I can see, I can feel, I'm resonating with that higher consciousness, and I don't have to be afraid of it. Because I have been at different times of my life.
I want it all and I want it now.
You want it all and you want it now. Your faith has made you whole. That's what touching into that hem of the garment means. So, I just want to end because we have potluck, and there we go. Next Sunday is Dr. Preston McKeever Floyd. If you haven't ever heard him, you're going to love him. Former professor of religion and philosophy at Coastal Carolina University. I will be at Charleston Unity with some of us honoring our founding mother, Mary Ann Finch, who also founded Charleston Unity. So let me end with this story. while years ago, I had a dream. And the dream was that I walked into a great room full of library books. Shelves filled with books. Those of you who love books, oh, this library full of books. And as I walked through the library, I realized I know everything that's in those books. Wow. I know everything in those books. All the books in the library. And then I walked down onto the balcony. Wow. And then I looked down. And there were people on balconies that stretched to infinity, and they're all looking up at me. And I go, wow, they've all got their libraries, and they all know everything in those libraries. And wow, how did I get to be here on this high balcony? And then I looked up. And there were balconies stretching out beyond me with people looking down. And we all had our libraries of information. We all had our libraries of knowing. And it's endless. We are multidimensional. It's exciting. When we begin to tap into this idea, we aren't just this place, this moment. We are multidimensional moments all at the same time. We're so much more than we know ourselves to be. Let's take a deep breath. We are not our minds. Our minds are beautiful instruments through which we can express as the light. We love our minds. We feed our minds with conscious thought, and we feed our minds with ideas that can lift and restore and regenerate and renew and heal and transform. We give thanks for our minds, the beautiful instruments of our minds, as we speak and write and express ideas of truth to take us to the reality of who we are. We give thanks for remembering this. And I invite you to turn to someone, say, what a beautiful mind you have as the light of the world.
Oh, so wonderful, Rev Margaret. I feel like Tom said, we are the most fortunate people in our beach to be here and get to listen to the Canuga keynote speaker.